Hello and welcome back to the Meadowbank Thistle Podcast. My name's Morgan Knock. If this is your first time listening, then I'd really recommend going back to episode 1, where you can find out more about the wider project this podcast is part of, and some more about who I am. On today's show, we have Meadowbank Thistle's first goal-scoring hero. John Jobson played 137 matches and scored 59 goals, a scoring record which stood for a number of years and was only ever exceeded by Adrian Sprott and David Roseborough. This really was a laugh a minute. John is great entertainment, so I hope you enjoy listening to the interview as much as I did recording and then editing. Before we get stuck in, I want to update on the reunion event. Our reunion, commemorating 30 years since Meadowbank Thistle's final match, is taking place at Parkside Bowling Club in Edinburgh on the 31st of May 2025. Currently, there is an exclusive pre-sale of tickets to players, their families and other people I've got in my phone book. Tickets will go on general sale on the 1st of April, and all details of how to purchase will be shared on our social channels and this podcast closer to the date. If you've received the ticket link already, then this is your exclusive period to secure a ticket, as the capacity is limited and you really might miss out. I've also got a list of former players who I've not yet managed to get in touch with. If you visit our website, www.meadowbankthistle.co.uk, there's a button which says Contact List. If you could take a minute to scan that list for the names and maybe help me get in touch with anyone, then I'd really appreciate it. There'll also be a link in the podcast description to that page. Today, welcome to the show, John Jobson.
Nice to talk to you, Morgan.
Thanks so much for giving up your time again, John. So we'll get cracking straight away. Can you tell us a bit about your childhood and what it was like growing up in Fife?
Well, we're part of a mining community. You know, it was adjoined villages. There were 3 villages. We stayed in 2 of them. My father was a miner, so you know, which most people's fathers were. You know, it was all to do with mining. But good childhood, really good. You know,
Fantastic.
I mean, all we did was play soccer. That's all we did. You know, there was nothing. But there was a lot of countryside round about, and Loch Leven was there. We used to spend time a lot of time in the summertime up there. I used to go swimming, but I spent most of my holidays in St Andrews, which was maybe about 35 to 40 miles away from where we were, because we had family up there. So we used to spend the whole summer up there. But as I say, it was a good childhood, you know, and everybody played at football, you know, but that's all it was. There wasn't anything else.
Are you from a big family?
I had 4 brothers, obviously my parents, you know. So I was the second oldest. My older brother, he died about 25 years ago. He was out in India and he died in India. So, you know, India was a third world country, so he's cremated immediately, you know. Sad. He was a fine guy.
Really sorry to hear that.
Go on.
And you've got some famous family members.
Yeah, my brother Richard, he's still going yet, you know, he was in a band called the Skids. He did all the lyrics for all the Skids songs. Stuart Adamson of Big Country fame. He was the man behind the music, you know. I mean, Richard's still he's still touring yet with the Skids. Obviously, he's the only band member that's. I mean, Stuart died, but there was other band members, but he's got a new format with some good guys, and they're playing these timeless songs, you know.
One of the Meadowbank supporters, called Charlie Lowry, he told me a story that he met Richard a couple of years ago at a gig.
Uh-huh.
Another fan was telling him how Richard, you're my favourite member of the Skids. I've always wanted to meet you. And Charlie butts in and says, "You're not even my favourite Jobson."
Richard's he's a really good. I mean, he's what? He'll be 65 this year. So, yeah.
I bet he doesn't get that shout very often.
Well, no, not really. I mean, he's obviously the most famous of the family. You know, my other brother Michael, the one below, he's been in the music business for he was 15 years old. But he's in logistics. He was a tour manager. You know, big bands. You know, Echo and the Bunnymen, Florence and Machine, all you can really big bands. But now he works with these, he works with these DJs now, the top guys. You know, he worked with Avicii and David Guetta. And he's now out in Saudi consulting, you know, because Saudi being a new country, they weren't very good at putting on events, so he's out there. I mean, the guy knows what he's doing, you know.
It's lucrative.
Certainly is, aye.
And I've heard your dad's a TV celebrity. Yeah. So I heard he went on Antiques Roadshow.
Oh, that's just a joke, you know. The joke is that we stay in Dunfermline, and then the Antiques Roadshow came to Dunfermline, and it's in a place called Pittencrieff Park. It's a beautiful park right in the centre of the town. And we're maybe about 2 miles away from Dunfermline. He took this thing down in a wheelbarrow, and he goes up to the first expert, and he says to him, "Listen, son," he says, I've had this in my loft for 60 years. Could you tell me what it is?" And the guy says, it's your hot water tank." I mean, you could tell it about anybody, you know. It's
Yeah.
that's what we kind of do when you're brought up in these mining villages. Everybody knows the joke, but if you put a local person's name to it,
Yeah.
you know, it's got more of an impact, you know, especially when you tell people from the area, you know, you put a name to the
You totally reel me in, so I get it. What's your first taste of proper organised football?
Proper organised football would be at the school. Well, it wasn't. It was at primary school. I played for. I was at St Kenneth's School, and I played for the what you call Cowdenbeath district. It was a compilation of all the schools in that area, and they just picked a team, and you know, for guys for different schools. And then when I went to high school, I mean, St Andrews was mainly a rugby school, but they had football, and I played for. I mean, I actually used to play 3 games on a Saturday morning. I used to play for the school in the morning. I played for Kirkcaldy YM at lunchtime, and I played for Raith Colts in the afternoon. Well, that was Raith Rovers' juvenile team. So yeah, that was my introduction to organised football, you know.
And then Raith Rovers signed you up, and you're involved in the first team at a really young age.
Well, I signed for them in '74, Morgan. So that would make me 17. I was 17 when I signed. You know, Raith Rovers. I had an affinity with that club. I'd been at school in Kirkcaldy, and I was there 3 years, and I loved the place. Absolutely loved it. You know, it was a proper old club with a proper, you know, proper ground and stuff like that. As I say, I loved it there. It was a guy called George Farn that signed me. He played for Blackpool in the 50s. He was a goalkeeper. He played in the same final as Stanley Matthews, and he took Dunfermline in 1968 to win the cup. So he was a bit of a formidable character, you know. But he got the sack no long after I signed. So, but a lot of the guys at the Rovers said it was my fault, you know, that because he signed me and he got the sack. Yeah, but as I say, sorry.
So who came in after that as the manager?
Well, Bert was his assistant, and he took over just for a couple of months. But Bert was one of these guys that wouldn't take any nonsense. He wouldn't take any interference for board members, and you know. So Bert didn't last long, and he left. And then we got a guy called Andy Matthew. He'd been a manager at Cowdenbeath. Yeah, and he came in, and he wasn't very fond of me. You know, I didn't get many games.
And what are you doing for work at this time? Are you still living at home?
I was working in the Rosyth dockyard. I was working in the dockyard, you know, working on ships. I worked there for about 15 years. Yeah, it was good, you know, good place to work. You know, there were 4,000 men worked there at one time. So
it sounds like heavy work to be going and playing football.
Well, that's what the leagues in Scotland did. The second division, as it was known at the time, everybody was part-time. So everybody had to work, and you know, it was only the tap guns that were all full-time. You know, Celtic, Rangers, Hibs, Hearts, big clubs. You know, they were all full-time. I mean, there were some clubs that in the first division, as it was then, they were part-time as well.
So you didn't get on with Andy Matthew, and he'd come from Cowdenbeath. Did he still put in a good word for you?
No, he never really gave me a chance. I would get a start, and then if he didn't score or anything like that, I was out the next game. You know, he never gave me a decent run in the team. And then it was him that released me. You know, it took me a long time to get over that one. You know, because I loved the place. You know, I was popular with all the players, and they were kind of gutted for me. You know, and as I say, it took me. You know, you get a feeling of rejection. It's not a pleasant thing. You know.
And did it take you a long time to dust yourself down?
Yeah, I couldn't settle because, well, basically, Morgan, I was feeling sorry for myself. You know, which I should have been man enough to, you know, to get over me. I went to Cowdenbeath. I only signed a 3-month contract at Cowdenbeath. Frank Connor was the manager. And then we went down to play Berwick in a midweek game. The assistant manager at Berwick was a guy called Wally Matheson, who actually played for Rangers. Davy Smith was the manager. I played that race with Wally. He was at the end of his career. So after the game, they come and spoke to me and says, you want to come down here? Which, yeah, of course I will. So I went down there, had a couple of years there. Loved it down at Berwick as well. Yeah.
It sounds like a long way to go.
Oh, it was the, you know, the bypass or anything wasn't built in those days. It was a 2.5 hour trip for Edinburgh, you know. But they looked after us, you know. You had the option to go down on the Friday night if you wanted, you know, or the Saturday morning. You know, we were leaving Edinburgh at like 10 o'clock, you know, to get down to Berwick, because I mean, obviously they had to feed us and stuff like that, you know. But I liked it. I really did. Good people there. Davy Smith was the manager, and I mean, this guy's the best player I've ever played with. He was just he was 36-year-old at the time. I mean, he would come in and name the team at 2:10 on a Saturday. You know, Davy had a he liked to bet. He liked a wee flutter on the horses. But what a player he was. You know, he was just top drawer. You know, a lot of people kind of looked forward to playing against him because they thought he was finished. He played as a centre back, old fashioned sweeper. Centre back wasn't a term in the days. Davy was just outstanding football player.
And so there's no kind of conflict with it being a player manager if he's head and shoulders the best.
No. I mean, if he's a player manager of that quality, well, I mean, you've not got a case. I mean, if a guy wasn't playing, he was a centre half or a sweeper. I mean, he's not going to go and chap on Davy's door because the comparison was through the roof. You know, he was just a magnificent football player. I mean, you're talking about a guy that played in the European final. Davy was a strange character. You know, he wasn't a communicator or anything like that. And we won the championship. You know, so.
And you scored a hat-trick as a substitute once.
Come on, as a substitute, it was against East Stirling down at Berg. I came on at half time, and I think I scored it in 6 minutes. I'm sure it was six. It was either 6 or 8 minutes, you know. So, and I still didn't play the next game.
What more can they ask for?
Yeah, exactly.
And you played with Davy Moyes while you were at...
Davy was my mate. Davy was my friend. Davy, unfortunately, and God rest his soul, he passed away a couple of months ago. But he was some character. He was a real physical football player. Even in the last 2 minutes in the modern game. But we had some time together. See, there was a lot of guys that came from the north of England that played for Berwick. Davy wouldn't speak to them or anything. He just wasn't you know, I'm not wanting to swear, but you know, that's. But he was a real good character. And then later on, when I was at Dunfermline on the coaching staff, we signed him, and he did an absolutely brilliant job for Dunfermline. You know, Dunfermline went through the leagues, and obviously he wasn't Premier League quality. You know, they had to all the part-time players were kind of finished at that time. But Davy was just as I say, he wasn't a dirty player. He was very physical. You know, old school. You know, if you were playing against Davy, you knew you were up against something. But he was a brilliant character. I mean, I've got too many stories to tell about Davy. You know, it would take me all night to tell you some of the stuff that he would do. You know, he lived in Trinent. You know, so that was on the road to Berwick. And see, when you're involved with a football team and you get a pick-up time, you know, for your boss to pick you up. In all my experiences, the bus is never on time. Never. So I think it was 10:30 he was getting picked up in Trinent. And so we go to his pickup point and he's not there. And so Dave Smith knew that me and him were mates, and he goes, where is he? I don't know. I didn't care where he is. I didn't know where he was. He was back home in his house. So the bus had to go all the way through these wee streets. Dave was sitting in his kitchen with a bacon roll and the Daily Record, And the same, what you know, wait for? He goes, well, you told me 10:30. If it's not there, we got there about 20 to 11. You told me 10:30. If you're not there at 10:30, I'm home. He was a great boy. I loved him to bits.
Thank you. So, what did you do wrong at Berwick to end up playing for Meadowbank?
I've no idea. They got promoted because there were 3 divisions at the time, and they won the league. And there was a kind of a shock to me, Morgan. I got released. I didn't know, because when you told me about what you were going to ask me, I got a phone call from Willie McFarlane saying that you want to come to Meadowbank. I says, well, I'm at Berwick.
No, you're not.
I know I'd been released. I don't know.
So what's Willie's pitch to you on that call?
Well, that was really the only call that I got. I mean, there was a couple others, but for up north, I wasn't going to travel because I've been travelling to Berwick. I wasn't going to go to excuse me, the northern team. So he just says, "You want to come along and play?" Offered me some money, and that was it. It's only Edinburgh, it's half an hour on the train.
So you got to this point. You've played for Wraith, Cowdenbeath, and at Berwick. Not really got going. Is this the last chance saloon in?
Oh, definitely. If I wasn't going to play, I wasn't going to be there. And I wouldn't have played football again. I wouldn't have went down. Again, it's no disrespect to the junior game, but I wouldn't have went down and played in that. I'd have just finished. I'd have turned into a thief or somebody like that. Going to shops and robbed them and that.
And are you conscious of that? That
this
is my last chance?
Yeah, I made my mind up. If I'm not going to get a regular game and obviously to score some goals, and contribute to a team, I'm no. Because you doubt yourself when people reject you, It's the most horrible feeling you can get. Aye, I would have just jacked it in. I wouldn't have played.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, you did hit the ground running.
Did, yeah.
You scored loads and loads of goals.
Yeah, I did, huh?
Are you the main man in the team? What's it like? Did you feel like you were carrying the team?
No. I mean, when I first went, Morgan, it was a bit of a culture shock because, I'd been at these clubs where you get looked after. You get good training gear. It's all laid out for you. You get, you basically didn't have to do anything. All you have to do is turn up. But then when I went to Meadowbank, we didn't have decent equipment. We had to take during training gear. Take it home, wash it. I'm not meaning to be disrespectful. The lack of professionalism was a bit of a culture shock for me. But when I went there was half a dozen good players. We weren't a joke team. I'm going to tell you. I mean, you were going to ask me about Willie McFarlane. Willie didn't do anything. Terry did it all. He took the training. He took the team talks, and you could see that Terry was wanting a bit of structure, and as he did through all his career at Meadowbank and other clubs that you played a certain way. And he played a rigid 4-4-2. And the training, we started doing drills and stuff like that, which I'd never ever done, because it was all these old school managers. And these guys didn't do anything. So, and I started to enjoy it because we had some good players, Obviously, we needed more, which Terry Christie went and did, and that's how they became successful, But it was a structure. That's the way he coached, and that's the way he wanted his team to play, He had the sort of ethos that we had to get the ball wide rather than central. He didn't. He liked to play with 2 wingers, But a lot of them, they had to be deep a lot of the time. And that was the way he structured it. And I mean, I'm playing as a striker. I'm not there just to score goals. I'm there to close down fullbacks and work hard. Because if you didn't do it, you wouldn't play. So I liked it. I liked the structure of things. I liked the fact that you had to work hard. And he did that, and the goals just, I don't know. The thing about scoring goals was I wanted to score. That was in my mind for the Friday night onwards, or for the Thursday night onwards. I'm wanting to score. So
was there anybody who kind of took you under their wing when you came in? Still a young player?
At Meadowbank? No, not really. No. It was just all structured in the boot play. Their name they would come in. When you're brought up old school like me, it didn't really bother me. I wasn't looking for somebody to come and put their arm around me. I mean, I knew how to play the position. I knew what to do. It was all about structure and the way we were going to play. And then at the end of the season, he would sign some good players. So it took maybe 2 or 3 seasons, but he signed them. And Meadowbank were a right good team. Oh, down to Terry Christie.
How does it feel when you're one of the top goal scorers in the league individually, but the team is still?
Well, that didn't. We were a mid-table team. That didn't bother me. I was enjoying myself. We're a good bunch of people, and football clubs in the days they were like social clubs. You couldn't wait to get to the training and meet your mates and have a laugh. I wasn't concerned about us being mid-table because again, Terry Christie wanted to do something with the club, and I mean, obviously he wanted to do stuff for himself. He wanted to be a good coach, which he was. So we improved, and then within 2 seasons they were challenging.
And are there any goals from that period that really stick out in your mind that you really enjoyed?
Well, Morgan, I scored that many that I forget about them all. No, we played Aberdeen in I think it was called the Skull Cup in the days. It was a home and away thing. So we played them at Meadowbank on the Wednesday night, and other top guys were playing, and Ferguson, the managers, and they beat us 5-0 at Meadowbank. So we had to go up there on the Saturday to play them because it was a 2-legged affair, And you're not wanting to go, you're fearing the worst. And we ended up drawing the game. We drew 2 each at Pittodrie, and I scored both goals that day. One was I scored for about 20 yards, and the other one was a free kick. So it was a real good day for me. It's a good day for everybody. You're going up there and you're playing against Scottish internationals, and the Strachans, McLeish, Archibald, McGee, all the guys. So it was a good trip home that day.
And when you've gone and scored 2 goals like that against a real top team, do you start getting ideas above your station then?
No, really, but I mean, maybe a wee thought would come into your head that, maybe somebody was there, maybe somebody, but no, it wasn't prime in my thoughts.
Everybody that I've asked is able to name a different goal that was their favourite. I'm not going to run through them all, but when you are held in that esteem, like you were the first real hero of the Meadowbank years. By the time they got some supporters, and you're that first guy that really captures the imagination that is a star.
Yeah.
How did that feel? Did you feel that at the time?
No, at the time, no, because I never won a Player of the Year thing at Meadowbank. Never ever got it. Kind of bugged me a wee bit that, but no. I scored a hat trick. It was the first ever Meadowbank hat trick. We played Clyde, and it was on a Sunday, and got a hat trick, and that was, I remember these things, but don't know really. It's I can remember loads of goals, but nah.
So bringing it back to the current day, for the benefit of the listeners, we met up in January and I got a few players together and a couple of supporters, and Edinburgh City were kind enough to let us use their club shop.
Yeah.
Jim Lumsden was there and he came over to you and said, "You were my hero. When I was 10 years old, I worshipped you." How did that feel hearing that 50 years on?
Well, it's very humbling experience. And I thought to myself, is this guy drunk or what? Has he had a bevy? No, it's really nice, nice thing. And I mean, everybody likes accolades, Morgan, and that was a good moment for me. That somebody saying that about you. It's I take it with pride. Nice thing for the guy to do.
I'm delighted to hear that. You're the first name that jumps off the page as that star for Meadowbank. Do you feel like you're going to get a big move at some point? Do you feel like the time is coming?
I don't know, Morgan. I mean, as I say, I was still quite happy at Meadowbank, and Meadowbank was starting to go places. They were getting, the year I left, they got promoted, so they're playing in another league. Maybe they got promoted because we Terry Christie got fucking shot at me. You know? No, I didn't. I didn't hate the delusions of grandeur. You know, I was quite happy because, you know, I had a good job and stuff like that. You know, eventually I did get a move. You know, which was good for me. Going to play in another league, which I thought, this is good. This is a bit more like it. I'll never say a bad word about Meadowbank. Just the early days of the sort of unprofessionalism side of it and the transport side of it. You know, I mean, but when I was at Dunfermline, I mean, you got issued with a suit, a club suit with the badge and everything on it, and everybody dressed the same, and I mean, if you turn up at an away game like that, you're up 1-0 before the game starts. You know, it's just a professional thing. But I mean, Meadowbank had limited funds. I don't know how they did it, but the strips were poor. We trained on an ash pitch, which is fair enough because again, that's got its advantages as well because your touch improves when you play on the sort of fast surface. You know? Yeah, that's the only criticism I've got is in the early days it was, you know, we had strips with the necks were ripped and, you know, some of us had odd coloured socks and that on, you know, it wasn't conducive to professional football, you know. But that's as far as my criticism goes.
So, I mean, there was a stage where it seems like your relationship with Terry.
Well, I never had any issues with him. I mean, I played every week. You know, he obviously liked me as a player. Morgan, back in the days, I was a bit of a half-wit, you know, I was a bit of an idiot. You know, I trained hard and played hard on a Saturday, but all the in between, you know, maybe it got on his nerves a wee bit, you know. That's the only thing I could put it down. But I had one fallout with him, and it was quite a serious one. But you know, we were at training one night, and I had a collision with Peter Godfrey. Again, just a football collision, and Peter's arm caught me on the nose, and my nose was broken. You know, I had to go to hospital. All this, and we were playing at Clyde on the Saturday, so I wasn't allowed to play, obviously with the injury, you know. And Big Walter, in fact, played as a striker that day. I went to the game. So the next week, playing Tuesday, Thursday, we were playing Dundee in the Scottish Cup up at Dundee on a Sunday. So I'm thinking, well, that's good. Maybe I could do something good, and there'd be people there. You know, football managers go to as much games as they can. So Terry took me aside at the training on the Thursday night and told me I was going to be on the bench.
Yeah, because what he had scored in that game where you were missing.
Well, I played. I mean, Big Walter could play anywhere, you know, but he's not an out and out striker, but he played well. And so he was sticking with Walter at centre forward, and I thought, nah. He says, you're on the bench, and I just walked away. I says, I'll not be there. You know, but which was a bit impulsive, you know, but it was one of the ones. And maybe that was the one that the straw that broke the camel's back, you know. But yeah, that's the only kind of fault. There's nothing very.
How did you patch things up from there?
Well, I didn't go on the Sunday, and then he phoned me because we had a midweek game against Forfar, and he phoned me to come back here. And I mean, he laid his authority down. He put me on the bench for that game, which, you know, I didn't have a problem with. So then, I mean, I played I come on at half time, I think, and then it was back to normal again, you know. Yeah.
So when did you first find out that Falkirk are interested in taking you there?
Terry phoned me. He phoned me at the house, because Falkirk were having problems. You know, they were near the bottom of the table. So Alec Totten took over at Falkirk. Alec Totten's a big Falkirk man. You know, he's passionate about the club. So Terry told me he was going to phone me, and because the deal had been done. It was a swap deal with Pogo with Gordon Smith. I mean, I had played at Berwick with Pogo. So Pogo came. That was just before Christmas, 8th, I think. And Alec Totten phoned me, and then that was it. It was done. Pogo went to Meadowbank, I went to Falkirk.
I mean, if they thought they had a character with you, I mean, got Pogo coming in.
I mean, Pogo and Moisey were related. Pogo and Davy Moisey were cousins, but Pogo was a great guy. I really liked Pogo, and he was a good player. He had sort of social issues as well, fucking head case.
So I've heard.
But I liked him. He's a good lad.
So you get this move to Falkirk.
Yeah.
Is this your moment? Are you thinking I'm stepping up into the big time now?
Falkirk reminds me of Raith Rovers. It's a proper old school football club. With an old stadium, and then I'm going back to good stuff. Good footwear, good training stuff. Training gear all laid out. But you're in a different league. We had to train 3 nights. It was a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then Alec Totten had brought a lot of players in, and we started to do well and climbed up the table, right towards the end of the season. And I played maybe 85% of the games. I mean, I scored on my debut for them, which it stood me in good stead, But yeah, I was Falkirk. I was loving life there, and it's only a short trip from Dunfermline. It was only 25 minutes away.
Yeah, and that's still part time, even though you're training 3 times a week rather than 2.
But you're not playing part time football for money, but compared to what I was getting at Meadowbank, I didn't want to make it about money, but I quadrupled what I got at Meadowbank, which was a bonus, because at that time you only got 2 points for a victory, and you used to get your bonuses were per point, But the money was terrific compared to what I was, but it wasn't about that. I just loved the fact that I was at an old school football club again, with an old style stadium and good facilities.
And how did Alex Totten contrast to Terry Christie?
You've got this ethos that if you appoint a coach, what's the point of giving him a job if he's not going to coach? I mean, Alec was always at the training, always had his tracksuit on. He would do stuff with the goalkeepers, but he was always there watching and seeing what was going on. This was sort of new style of football, and we got good coaching. Monday nights were pretty heavy. Tuesday night you got a lot of the ball, a lot of sort of drill work, and then a Thursday night it was sort of drill work again. Then a wee bit of 7-a-side football and stuff like that. It was loved it there.
And so, why do you think it didn't work out?
Well, it did work out because during the close season, I got hurt. I got my shoulder injured, and I went to Alloa. I got a shoulder injury. I was out for it. Couldn't start the season for them, and then got fit again. Got back in the team. Scored a couple of goals. Was doing well, and then we were playing Ayr United, and that's when I got injured. It was a collision with the goalkeeper. He sort of came out and dived at my feet. His shoulder made contact with my shin. That was me. I never played football again. I was only 26. And I kind of felt sorry for myself again, because I always say that I was only starting to get good at it when I had to give it up. Fucking tragedy, Morgan. It's a tragedy.
It is, but by all accounts of the people who were there at the time,
yeah,
it's a shame. And do you think if you'd got the same injury in 2024?
Well, yeah, it would have been fixed. Yeah, no problem. They would have put pins in it, and Henrik Larsson suffered the same injury. He came back better than ever. I was in plaster for a full year, and when it come off, I had a running limp. And I thought, no, you can't. I had a few people on the phone wanting. I says, no, you'd be buying a dud. I can't. And I started to have an ankle problem with that. The leg when the shin bone got broken. Nah, it was impossible. So that was me.
How are you feeling at that point? Is it like when you said Meadowbank was your last chance?
Yeah.
And then you're drawing a line under it? Is it the same? You're just drawing a line under it and moving on?
Well, what happened was I got back into football pretty quickly. a friend of mine was running an under-21 team in up at Kelty, So he asked me if I would go up and coach. So I didn't really have time to sit and say, well, this is going to be it. Because when I tried to come back, I knew that I just have to accept this thing. But I got into coaching this under-21 team, and it was more or less everything that Terry Christie had done. The coaching methods, plus a lot of stuff Falkett had done, because I didn't learn anything off George Farm or Andy Matthew or Davy Smith or Willie McFarlane. They didn't teach people. So then, kind of stroke your luck, because I was enjoying coaching these laddies. And then Big Jim Leesman, me and him, we'd been friends for we were teenagers. He stayed in the next village to where I was born. So he got the Dunfermline job. Tom Forsyth got sacked. Big Jim, who suffered the same injury as me, but he was only 21, And he come up to my door and he chapped on the door and says, "You want to come and coach the youth team?" Which was on an ash bitty waste ground, just at the back of East End Park. So I did that, and there was a guy called Andy Young. Andy played for Celtic way back, and he played with Wraith Rovers. He run the reserve team, and he told Big Jim that he wasn't going to do it anymore. So I used to go with the reserves, although I had the youth team, but we didn't play any games, Morgan. There was no game involved. It was just giving them a bit of... So I used to go to the reserve games with Andy, and Andy recommended to Big Leash that to give me the job, which was fantastic. I mean, I wasn't the reserve team manager as such, because Dunfermline had a lot of players, and there was a lot of guys not getting a game in the first team. So they guys had to play on the Tuesday or Wednesday night, So that went on for about a year, and then I started to get a bit of free rein with the reserve team, and he wanted me to go with the first team as well on a Saturday. I was like a full-time football player. I was involved every weekend. It was Monday nights, Tuesday nights, Wednesday reserve games, training Thursdays, away with the first team on a Saturday. I was quite popular along there, because most of the guys were either younger or the same age as what I was, So I knew you've kind of got an advantage, because you know what's going through what's in their heads, Again, if people aren't playing, they like to get taken to the side and spoken to, and give them a bit of encouragement and stuff. So it kind of worked for me. And the 4 years that I was there, it was just, they went from being one of the worst teams in Scotland to straight through to the Premier League. It's unbelievable. Great place to be, and 9,000 people there every week. I was there on Saturday morning at the Dunfermline Queen's Park game. I got invited along, and I like getting invited along, but you've got to endure a game of football.
What's Jim like to work for?
He was brilliant. I mean, he was a man manager. He managed people. Gregor Abel, who was his first team coach, he was my coach at Falkirk. And Gregor was a kind of SFA guy, He was a staff, what you call a staff coach. He worked for Andy Roxburgh and Craig Brown and these people. But I like Gregor. It was just a fabulous place to be, because Big Leachy put some spirit into the town. And he wasn't very popular with the echelons of Scottish football. But what he did know was he was outstanding at signing players. Good players that got us through these leagues, And he was a motivational character, and he turned the whole town. He turned the town around in this place. I mean, he's the provost now. He's like fucking Mr. T. He's going to be with the gold chain in that.
Yeah, I've spoken to him quite a few times recently.
He told me he phoned. That's how it's probably through you that I got the invite on Saturday, because he phoned me to tell me that you'd been in touch with him, and he says, you want to come along to the hospitality on Saturday? I says, of course.
Oh, there you go. See?
So I'm due you a bit of lunch.
I'll set you up on that. I mean, Jim's been incredibly helpful, and he's agreed to speak at the reunion event.
Yeah, he's made a lot of money out of that game, but he steals all my jokes, Morgan. You have to take credit. You've resurrected something,
I'm trying.
which is great.
You must be telling everybody.
Yeah. He's he's in his 70s now. I was with him on Saturday, and he was on the Sunday. He was driving up north to Inverurie, obviously to host a dinner.
Yeah.
I
Amazing.
could some boy. I could write a book about him as well. But he took me to Dunfermline, and I'm forever grateful to him for that. Had some great times.
Were there any young players there that you particularly worked with?
Nah, no, really. The youth team, they meant the youth team that I coached. When I went to the reserves the next year, the same group of players, they won the Scottish BP Youth Cup. There was a couple of them made the first team, but no names, no sort of big names. But a lot of them were really good players, really good. David Bingham was one of them. So I had David as a 14-year-old at East End Park. Cracking boy, really good player, David. So yeah, he was one of them.
And did you have the opportunity to go with Jim?
Well, he says I did, because we were both at Rosyth, a junior team, and he got offered the job. And I'm not really sure what happened, because I continued to be the manager at Rosyth after he left. But maybe he did ask me to go along. I was actually getting fed up with football, Morgan. I was getting, as I say, I was getting fed up with it. I was getting cold winters and stuff like that. Because what I didn't like about it was, if you're a manager of a football team, it doesn't matter what level you're at, you're going to disappoint somebody. Somebody's going to be disappointed, if you've got 16 or 18 players. And I absolutely hated that. I hated the fact that I was responsible for a guy enjoying himself on Saturday night, it was just the way I thought. And I was getting kind of fed up with it.
And I mean, have you been involved in football since then?
No. I didn't watch much yet either. If there's a big game on, I'll watch it. But I can't be bored with this new type of football player. Can't tackle. Goalkeepers have to be able to play and all that. In my day, goalkeepers were there to make saves.
So where does your energy go in your spare time now?
My couch. I just sit and watch Netflix. That's something that I'm really good at these days. I mean, I go walking, stuff like that. Me and my wife, we've got kids and we've got grandkids, and I like to go on holiday. I like we go on holiday 2 or 3 times a year. Yeah, that's what we like to do. And my wife's still working. My wife's got 2 jobs. So yeah, quite happy, Morgan.
Putting food on your table.
Aye. I'll say her, hand me that remote.
Brilliant. And have any of your kids been involved in football?
My grandson Manny, he was at Celtic. He's 17 now, and he was at Celtic for 9 years. He was at Celtic for he was 7 years old. So when he turned 16, it's time for him to get over the contract. We've been that age, and they offered him an expenses only contract. He didn't want that, and he's not been. It's kind of did something to him, he's not been the same for about a year. You're not at a club like that for 9 years and not been any good. But it was just an unfortunate thing. I know exactly how he feels. But now he's got a job and stuff like that. He'll maybe go back to playing,
Yeah. Well, hopefully you can kind of give him that arm around the shoulder and give him some advice on how you coped.
Yeah, well, I took him to the game with me on Saturday. I mean, he goes and watches Celtic. Him and his father are. They go to all the home games at Celtic Park, so he likes that. But I mean, what he's doing, he's playing with a local junior team, Oakley United. He's there. He's playing in an under-20 league, and he goes with their first team. That's maybe just a wee way to get him back to enjoy playing football again,
So, do you see any of your old teammates now?
No necessarily teammates. Well, I mean, when we went to meet you at Edinburgh City, me and Walter went for a pint.
Yeah, he said. I heard it was more than one.
Well, we had 3, but I mean, it's the best Saturday afternoon I've spent in a long time sitting with your mate. And because me and Walter used to travel together when we were at Meadowbank. He stayed in a place called Winsborough, which was just over the Forth Bridge. And I didn't drive at the time, and I used to get the bus to the other side of the bridge, and Walter would pick me up. So we spent quite a bit of time together, Yeah. Oh, we had it.
Have you got any dirt on him?
On Walter? No, really. Walter's a cracking player. We had good players at Meadowbank. But Laurie Dunn. Laurie was really underrated. I played a few times against Laurie when he was at Dunfermline. I would be at Berwick at the time, and he's no tall. And I'm thinking to myself before the game, this is going to be a good day for me. Fucking anything but, terrific player, Laurie.
What, he said that he really drew loads and loads of confidence from you, from travelling in together and talking about football.
Yeah. And we had Davy Conroy. Davy was a good player. Gordon Fraser, Big Walter. We had some duds as well.
You've named a couple of guys who've been telling me stories about you. Gordon Fraser is a good one. So he said that you put in a good word with Alex Totten.
Yeah, I did.
His move.
Yeah. He's a good player, Gordon. Quick. Left sided, good boy.
Brilliant. Then looking at that summer 1979, there was 6 players signed, but the 4 that stayed, there was you, Laurie Dunn, Watty Boys, and Derek Brown. And between you're 20 short of 1,000 games for Meadowbank.
Dear.
I mean, it was a very successful summer.
Yeah.
So Laurie said, Jobbo was renowned for his humour and personality as much as he was for his goal scoring, and always kept the team camaraderie going. I remember on a cold, wet training night at Meadowbank during our warm-up, Tam McLaren stopped us to do some stretching exercises. We were all lined up in front of him, and Jobbo noticed that sweat was escaping from the top of his head, and promptly announced, I can't do the accent, but, "Hey, Kettlehead, are you feeling the..."
Good.
And then another memory about you were in Oliver's bar, and your brother Richard turned up with a girl on each arm, one of whom was Mariella Fostrup.
That was his wife.
Who he later married.
He was married to her. He married Mariella.
But yeah, he said that they came in and that all eyes were on them.
Yeah.
And then suddenly all eyes were on Laurie Dunn.
He was a good-looking guy, Laurie. He used to... Me and Walter were talking about it. We were talking about him when we went for a pint. And he's a handsome guy. And Laurie used to go... He used to go to Spain for his holidays in the 70s, And he'd come... We'd turn up for pre-season training, and he's like this fucking bronzed Adonis, man. He used to drive...
He still looks like that now.
Driving me nuts, man. We're all ash and white and stuff like that. He turns up with. I used to call him the Lady International. But another great boy. Loved him to bits.
Brilliant. And who would you say is your favourite? So I'm just looking at a player profile that you completed in 1979. So I mean, it says who was your favourite singer?
And what did I say?
My mother.
Oh, aye, she could sing. Aye. That was a bit tongue in cheek. Is that
a little dig at your brother?
Well, it was a bit tongue in cheek, but my mother was because there was in those days it was working men's clubs. That's what the ex-servicemen's clubs and miners places, And she went up and gave a song or two. She was pretty good. Yeah. Who's your favourite singer? Your mother? Fucking hell.
I mean, the one other thing that stands out is you were asked, what's your biggest thrill in football?
What was that?
The showers after the game. And I'll give you an unkind question. What was your weight in January 1980?
I would say maybe 11 stone.
11 stone 6.
Right.
And what is it in February 2025?
I'm about 14.
So that's an improvement.
Yeah.
All the stats are going up.
I'm putting my belt on with a boomerang these days.
Do you do any other sports now? Do you play golf?
I always had problems with my ankle. And so I got an operation on the ankle and it didn't work. So I've got a kind of, I've got a touch of arthritis. But I stay on a golf course. I mean, there's a golf course, which I was a member of for 10 years. But no, I didn't play golf anymore because, ankles just swell up.
You couldn't do an interview without being asked about George Best.
Yeah, well, the best person to ask about George Best is Laurie Dunn, because Laurie had to Laurie got a marking job to do on him that day. And George Best did one thing in the game, and he played the pass for Hibs to score. But Laurie did, again, Laurie's the guy to, I mean, to be on the same pitch as him was a privilege, one of the greatest football players that ever lived, Yeah, I mean, I've got a picture of him at the end shaking his hand. I mean, all my brothers have got a copy of it. My youngest brother, Brian, he's got a couple of hairdressing shops, and he's got it up in his shops. And of course, George Best was steaming the night before. He had about 15 pints and 5 bottles of champagne. Exactly.
Super. Can you tell me any tales about Willie McFarlane?
Yes, well, there's I think maybe a lot of them would tell you the same story. We had a disaster trip down to Stranraer. Stranraer's a fair hike away. Everybody hated going there. So we're outside, a couple of miles outside a place called Girvan. So this bus is broke down. There's fucking smoke belching out the back of it, So we have to get off the bus, and then we got picked up on this bus, and it was an old woman's day out. Pensioners. So they were getting a lift into Girvan to get another bus. And these women were sitting, they all had fucking blue hair, and they were sitting next to me, son, and fucking
sit on my lap.
Oh, hey, come here, son. So then we gets a bus for Girvan to Stranraer, and then this thing, I didn't care if it was the same bus that broke down and they got it fixed, but it broke down on the motorway coming in. And Wally, we're all stranded, and Wally, the manager, gets off the bus, sticks his thumb out and gets a lift into Edinburgh. Left us all. Well, I'd been fucking, that's a manager, So I remember we were going to play Barrow in a pre-season game, and we're staying at Whitley Bay, which is a lovely place. So after the game, Wally says he had arranged for us to go to this club place, And we're all 21-year-old, Gets to this club, it was a working men's club. There were fucking singer on and a one-armed juggler and people like that, Again, we all left and went round the boozers. And he came into the hotel at night and he went mad. He was steaming. He's fucking banging on doors. You left me. What did you leave me for? We left you because we were sitting watching a one-armed juggler, man. You know what I mean?
So 70s.
Aye. That's my memories of him. And because Willie had the comb over. He was a Bobby Charlton lookalike. But he was a bookie. He was a bookmaker.
That story from the trip to Stranraer?
Yeah.
So he's thumbed a lift back to Edinburgh?
Yeah, left us.
How do you address that on Tuesday?
Well, he was never at the training, so I mean, I think he got the sack a wee while after that, and he was on the phone to a lot of people. He thought that Terry had stabbed him in the back, and which he stabbed his cell in the back. He's fucking hitching a ride on the M8, leaving his players and taking us go and watch fucking plate spinners and stuff like that.
Tell me a bit more about Terry.
Terry did everything. He was his job as a headmaster gave him a wee advantage there, but Terry was in control. He was in control of the way that we played, which was prime in the evolution of Meadowbank. He's responsible for it. I mean, I've not got any sort of stories to tell you about Terry because he was a very efficient coach and manager. As I said, there was structure to it. Team talks were the same every week, but everybody knew what they were doing. Whereas before, every other manager I had before, and some of them didn't have a clue. They pick a team and then that's it. Out you go. But he had structure, and I enjoyed the way we were set up because it was hard work. Everybody had to give your pound of flesh when you played in the Terry Christie team. There's no escaping it. Just say me as a striker, I had to work extremely hard off the ball to close people down. That was part and parcel of it.
What changed when Willie was gone?
Well, Terry started to listen to us because 4 or 5 of us, we were sick of the strips. And if you wanted a decent pair of boots, you had to put some of your own money towards it, which some guys would be all right with that, but I wasn't. Again, I'm wanting this club to contribute. That's why you play for them. And, So we kind of listened, and within a week we had a new set of strips, changed the culture of it a wee bit. At the end of the day, it was all about the way we played football. But everything was repetitive, and as I said, nobody came into that team that didn't know what they were supposed to do. There were some guys got a hard time off him. You know, Big Walter got a hard time off him. Tom Henry got a hard time off him. I think he did that because he liked them. You know what I mean? He was wanting them to do well. Then when Tom came, he improved the team immensely. He was a big guy and he played wide on the right and his delivery was good. You know, he obviously knew a bit about football because he became a right good manager. And we had good players. Signed Peter Godfrey. Peter, massive difference. And a big aggressive centre half with a bit of pace, you know. Because we had some poor guys played in that position, you know. Really good goalkeeper and Jim McQueen. Because we had big Bobby McKell. Bobby was at Falkirk, but Bobby was a giant, yeah, man. He was a brilliant shot stopper. But he was a pinty lager machine, this guy. Big Bobby. He could drink 6 pints in an hour. Man was huge. So we had to sign good players and everybody knew what they had to do.
Do you remember Jim McQueen's first game when he joined?
Well, he was. He looked like a goalkeeper. He was tall, he was big, and he was a good goalkeeper. See, goalkeepers in those days, Morgan, they stopped shots. That's what they did. And they wouldn't be taking short kicks and stuff like that. They got put up the pitch. And he's won a few games for Meadowbank in his time.
Absolutely. Can you remember a goal against Montrose?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. I was kind of one day at Meadowbank that night. It was just over the halfway line, and we used to work this free kick. It was a clever free kick that we worked. We scored a couple of goals off it. And I said, I'm just going to hit this thing, you know. I think it went into the net. I got the shock of my life. It was about 40 odd yards, you know. But I scored with a few free kicks at Meadowbank. I like to take them because I was quite strong striker of a ball with both feet. So I'd scored a few. I scored a hat trick at Clyde that day, and every goal was an absolute peach. You know, scored with a free kick. The other one was different. I went round the goalkeeper, and then another one I hit for 20 yards to score the hat trick.
Yes, I mean, I've heard from 2 of the 8 Meadowbank supporters who were there that day.
Yeah.
And they just remember it so vividly.
Yeah, 8 of them. There was more people in my house on New Year's Day.
You were certainly the first fans' favourite who was a striker.
Yeah.
So it was the goalkeepers. I'm looking down this list, and it's Derek Gray and Bobby McKell were the heroes. And really, there wasn't anybody who ever scored enough goals until you came along.
Yeah, Stevie Hancock scored a couple, I think.
Yeah, but not as consistently and as in such a greater number as yourself.
Yeah. Well, I think if you score goals, Morgan, it's credit to my teammates because they would give me the ball, you know. They would pass it to you. So, as I say, you can't score a goal on your own. You need a bit of assistance. But as I said to you, to sum it up, I wanted to score a goal. I wanted to badly. So.
And how do you reflect on your football career?
Well, my best football was at Meadowbank, and you kind of brought it all back, you know, by doing what you're doing. Try to remember things. And it's amazing when I was sitting with Walter that day that things that I'd never thought about, you know, they came into my head, and you need somebody to confirm it. Kind of was saying, "Do you remember that? Do you remember that?" And it's just wonderful. But I reflect on my time at Meadowbank. I'd like to think that I did well for them. You know, you know, as I'm getting older, you've got to try and stay humble. You know, you've got to be. And when you said about that guy saying I was this and that, it made me feel very humble. Lovely thing for a guy to say anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, especially after so long.
And I got this. It was my brother that bought it. It was I think I gave you a copy. It was a compilation of fanzines. It's a guy called Colin McPherson that wrote it, and it was in this book. And absolutely wonderful thing, you know.
You were that first hero.
Yeah.
They were calling out for a hero. John Jobson.
Yeah. I'd like to share without naming anybody. So remember that Aberdeen game I was telling you about? So they're travelling up to Aberdeen. So there was this guy that was in the squad at the time. I'm not mentioning his name in case he listens to this. I gets on the bus just outside Dunfermline on a motorway slip road. So the bus is coming from Edinburgh. I'm in Dunfermline. So I gets on the bus, and there's this guy sitting on a seat in the bus, and he's got a knitted cardigan on, heavy knit cardigan, with a fucking Indian chief knitted on the back of it. So I'm going, all the boys were laughing, I'm going, fucking hell is this? We're going to play the fucking champions of Scotland. He's sitting there with a jersey on with Hiawatha on the back of it, And this guy didn't own a pair of boots, same guy. He would wear anything for a size 6 to a size 10. Big Walter reminded me, I didn't care if he stayed the story. We're going to Stranraer to play them in the cup, and eventually they allowed us to stay the night because of it's a 3.5 hour trip. We get to do. I'm sharing a room with Roddy Georges. Me and Roddy, we've been at all the same clubs. Roddy was at Wraith, he was at Berwick, he was at Meadowbank with me. So I'm sharing with him, and this guy, everybody got paired up with who Terry thought was, that's what managers do. They'll pick you share with him, you share. So me and Roddy's together. So we're training on the Saturday morning, and goes down to breakfast, and this guy was there. Somebody says to him, "Who did you share a room with?" And he says, "The bus driver." It's fucking one of the funniest things I've ever heard, man. And how far down the line are you're sharing a room with a bus driver?
It's interesting you mentioned Roddy, because he said in an interview at the time you were playing together, one of his life ambitions was to hear you tell a good joke.
He said that. I'll not be sharing a room with him again.
Go on, tell us a bit about Roddy.
Roddy was he was a cracking player. He got arthritis in his hips at an early age, which kind of hampered him. But he's a brilliant boy, really good player, and kind of old school player that held it up well, and didn't do too much. Typical sort of old fashioned centre forward. He wouldn't bash people about or anything. In his younger days, when he was at Wraith and Dunfermline, he was quick and mobile, and he knew what to do, and he knew how to score a goal. When he was at Meadowbank, Roddy never complained. He didn't start many games, but he always, great pal of mine.
And then two more names that we've mentioned but not dwelled on. Gordon Fraser and David Conroy. They joined Meadowbank at the same time from the same board.
Yeah.
Both seem to have these career trajectories that were on the up. What are your recollections of those two guys?
I got on great with the two of them. Davey liked to laugh. He was, and again, me and him spent a lot of time together, and because Laurie Glasson was Terry's kind of coach, and he would take some parts of the training, him and Tam. But his favourite saying was, he used to shout all the time. He used to shout, "Clear the area, clear the area." Me and Davey would shout that at the same time as well. Clear the area. But Davey got a bad one as well when he left Meadowbank. He got a bad leg break. I've no saw him for over 40 years. I'm really looking forward to this reunion thing if you can get it organised.
Yeah, so tickets are available now. Then any profits that we make will be going to the Edinburgh Food Project, who run most of the food banks in Edinburgh.
Yeah, okay.
I met David Conroy. I met him the night before I met you.
Yeah.
And he's one that just seems to have dropped off the face of the earth, and nobody had seen him since the 80s. But he worked the room like it as well as anybody could, so it was great to see him.
Good lad.
And then Gordon Fraser was there, Pushcas. Everybody has a story about him, but again, nobody had seen him for a really long time. So he surfaced. What can you tell me about Pushcas?
Well, him and Davey were mates, but we had a sort of there was about 6 years that all kind of sat together, and there were a lot of guys that were. You get it in every football club. Are quiet when you're going away from home and stuff like that. But they were younger, and they certainly contributed to football and to non-football. The two of them. They weren't shrinking violets if you You know, they stood up for themselves and they held their own in the dressing room.
And did you think either of them would go on and have a successful career? Obviously,
Well,
you sorted
Gordon,
out...
before I went to Meadowbank, everybody was raving about Gordon. He was really quick, and he was left-sided, which is a left-sided quick player. Everybody's wanting to sign people like that, you know.
Brilliant. One guy that you just mentioned, Laurie Glasson. I think he's the ultimate unsung hero, because he was there from the start.
Yeah, he was.
Tell me a bit about him.
Well, there was no controversy about Laurie. Ken, Laurie and Terry were pals, and Laurie liked a pint and stuff like that. He would sometimes come with us, but Laurie was unassuming, but a really nice, just clear the area. That was his favourite saying. Clear the area.
I'll have to remind him of that one. So Tom Hendry, he was a big name in the story. Did he join while you were there?
Yeah. I'd been there for maybe about a year before Tom came, because he had been playing non-league football down in England, because I think he was teaching at a school. He was teaching at a school down there, and he came up here. He was on you'll be too young to remember. He was on a Saturday night quiz show. It was on mainstream TV. It was called 3-2-1. Big prizes. Dusty Bin was the booby prize. You know, it was on Prime.
It rings a bell, but obviously it is before my time.
And Tom and his wife got to the final. Ken, they were great prizes. Ken, cars and stuff like that. And Tom won because it was to do with cryptic clues. You know, you had to solve a cryptic clue to find out what the prize was. You know, and Tom won a box of cutlery. Ken, we used to go to away games in the hotel, and I used to shout at him, Tom, you got a knife and fork for me?
I bet that one got old quickly.
That's a good boy, Tom. Really good. He was a really fit guy as well, Tom. He could run for fun. But good boy.
Do you think that Terry would be a good manager in 2025?
Well, that's a difficult one. He probably could be, because he's got an idea in his head. People didn't play 4-4-2 anymore. I don't know if he changed his systems with other clubs, but I don't think so, because he was really good at doing that system. So, you know, most clubs are playing with two wingers but only one striker, you know. So, I mean, that system is a 4-2-4 when you've got the ball, and it's a 4-4-2 when you've not got the ball, you know. I mean, if you're going to play for Meadowbank, that's what you were doing. I mean, there was a guy that was guest of honour at East End Park on Saturday, a boy called Jim Bowie. Ziggy, they called him. Ziggy was at Meadowbank. He was doing a wee talk with Leishman on Saturday at the hospitality thing, and he mentioned Terry. And he mentioned stuff that I didn't know. He says if you were taking a throw-in, you had to give it to a certain guy, and it had to be a certain boy that was taking the throw-in. So he advanced his discipline, obviously, after I left, because it wasn't like that. Can me and Ziggy were talking about him, and he was a structured guy, and that's why he had the longevity, you know. He won a lot of games, and his teams were hard to beat because he had 11 guys all working extremely hard.
There's one more person I want to ask you about, and that's, he was kind of a member of the old guard, I would say. So, so David White.
Big Dave, eh?
He'd been there pretty much from the start.
Big Davey's legs were the same thickness at the top as they were at the bottom. I used to call him tree legs. But he was a big gentleman. I'd played against Davey a couple of times when I was at Bury. I liked to play against him, you know. And he was a really polite guy, you know, a real sort of Edinburgh, sort of middle class speaker, you know. So we were going down to Bury, and Big Davey's sitting reading this thing on the bus. Davy Conroy walks past them and goes, "The fuck's that, Davy?" And Big Davy, cool as anything, turns like that, and he goes, "That's a book, David. You'll know much about that." Big gentleman.
So do you have any regrets from your career?
Any regret? No, really, Morgan. I've stopped feeling sorry for myself. No, I've not got any regrets, mate. I'm humbled by the experience of what you're trying to do, and you know, and some guys have said a lot of nice things about me that does great things to your soul. So I'm
brilliant.
I'm very happy about stuff.
Fantastic, and that's what I want to achieve here. I mean, Peter Godfrey said almost exactly word for word what you've just said, that he feels this warmth that he didn't know existed.
Yeah.
And yet, hearing from people that you've never met before, that they're saying that you're hearing, it's yeah. He said that it was powerful, and that's exactly what I'm trying to achieve here. So I'm delighted to hear that. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. without further ado, let's get on with the show. So that was John Jobson. What a great chat that was. I had such a great time talking to John. And the story of him meeting Jim Lumsden is genuinely one of the most striking and meaningful interactions I've had in this whole project. Next week, I'll have an interview with another former Thistle star, Stevie Hancock. Keep an eye on X and Instagram channels at Meadowbank This to find out more. On X, you can also see a Thistle on This Day post every single day, so get stuck into that. This is the Meadowbank Thistle Podcast. I'm Morgan Knock, and for now, it's goodbye.